Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the Netflix anime Children of the Whales. And I really enjoyed this anime. I can understand why people might have a problem with it at first because it does have a different kind of pacing, but I think that it kind of goes more in its favor. And I just think it did a good job of building and introducing a very intriguing world with a pretty defined system of magic and what's going on in it, and just setting up a really good springboard for future seasons. So it starts off, and we get introduced to the Mud Whale by the transcriber, the recorder of the Mud Whale, Chakaro. And he gives us pretty much the lowdown that they've been in a supposed exile for 93 years, and that there's two groups on this Mud Whale. The Marked, who have these markings on them and can use this magic of Thymia, and granted that leads to a shorter lifespan than the Unmarked. Now, they have vastly more marked people than unmarked, so the Unmarked kind of control everything since they're the ones that live the longest and can kind of keep everything going, and just showing kind of like everyday life and what's going on, how they can make their own food, all the kind of different kind of side characters and everything, and I think they do a really good job. Chakaro might be the kind of main character at the moment because he's who we are experiencing everything through. He's very emotional, he cries a lot, but that deals into how they deal with emotions. They try and make sure that they don't over show with their emotions because of something that's been taught to them going down. It isn't as clear as first in the show as it is going forward after some certain information is found out. So they show how they send off people and send them off into the sand because the Mud Whale is on this giant sea of sand, so that kind of complicates matters. It's like, that's kind of an interesting premise. And then we get introduced into like other characters like Oni, who is a troublemaker who's marked one as well, but he's always put down in the hole for being a troublemaker because that's the closest to the center of the ship, and Thymia can't be as effectively channeled. And so they see that another island is off in the distance and pretty close to there, so they're like, okay, let's go on an expedition and see if we can find what's going on there, if anything. And they haven't really had any contact with any other people since this exile's begun. So they get on there and they're like looking around and everything, and Chakaro is part of it, and he finds this girl. And this girl almost kills him with Thymia and all these swords, because Thymia, from what it is seeing, can only act on outside objects, which I think is a kind of interesting thing. You can't, at least at the moment, directly use Thymia to kill someone, like burst them into flames or whatnot, so that's kind of put on there. And this girl's kind of weak and everything, and they bring her back on the boat. It's like, oh, that's kind of weird. They call her Lycos because that's the only thing that was put into the clothes and all that, and she says that she needs to speak with their leaders and everything because everybody's like dead on that island. There's a giant battle, and she buried them all. I mean, like, holy crap. And she just wants to go back on the island and pretty much just die. And of course Chakra kind of takes her over there and all that, and they get introduced to this kind of creature that feeds on emotion. She feeds it emotion and all her memories and that kind of stuff, and she is just kind of blank, and she can use Thymia that way. That's their kind of toll. It's like, what's the kind of toll that'll eventually be going on with the Thymia that goes on with the Mud Whale? So we get introduced to that going on. They go further up. They tell people not to go any further on with that island and all that, but then they eventually get attacked by this empire that she's a part of because she has a different colored skin and all that, different kind of features than the people in the Mud Whale. And all these people just getting slaughtered. It's nuts because they effectively introduce these characters, even though they're mainly side characters at the moment, and just seeing them kind of cut down and all that, and then just set up this new kind of hierarchy structure going forward is just crazy because it gets really intense because you get a first couple episodes introducing this, and then the main conflict comes on, the rising action. And they kind of leave to be like, oh, they found the prisoner islands of Thymia, not Thymia, of Falena. That's what their ship's called to the outside world, that they've been exiled for some crime, and they thought they were barbarians just tied to emotion, just killing each other and everything. Shit. And this empire is coming and wants to destroy it. Because Lycos, his brother, is the one in charge of it and wants to do that to further cement his power. But thanks to Lycos, they start understanding that if they kill the Nos, that is the creature that they feed their emotions to, they can sink the ship and get him out. It's like, holy crap. So they decide to, well, that's a little bit further on. At first, the elders decide that, you know what, we need to sink our ship because it would be better to just kill everybody because they're not prepared for war. But granted, they do ready themselves and start using battle tactics in different ways to fight the forces while their splinter force goes in and tries to sink the ship. Of course, they take Oni with them, and they almost get there, and most of their forces are cut down, and Oni's, one of his friends, is there, and he gets cut down as well, and that unleashes another power in it. And usually they can't use that kind of the Thymia power that next to the Nos, but he evidently is a Daemonis. And that is brought up by the commander of the ship going, oh god, as everything gets taken out, and he takes out the Nos. But before it's killed, it gives this kind of weird thing to Chakaro. Alright, use it how you see fit. And he goes back to the Mud Whale, and he's able to use this new kind of creature in conjunction with the Nos to steer it. It's like, oh, interesting. And we find out that they've been just kind of wandering around this kind of not walled off, but because of the way the sands are, they're in a kind of weird current, which is known as a prison that keeps everything in. You have to thread it, and you have to have control of the vessel to do it. It's like, okay, that's interesting. So that then leads towards the back end of the episodes where it's kind of like falling action. And I actually like the pace of this because we get introduced to the characters, we get introduced to the world, and then we get introduced to the conflict. We get through that conflict, and then at the end, we get a kind of calmer period where we're dealing with the fallout of that action while getting ready to introduce us to the next rising action that'll be happening afterwards. So, there's evidently more going on with these Gnosis than we think, because Lycos' brother starts talking about how there was a giant war and the Gnosis came down from heaven. So it's like, okay, what's going on with that? And of course was able to kind of help out. There's some kind of beings that they hold very reverence to. So much to the point that sometimes they will partake of the Gnos to kind of be able to deal with losing their emotions. Though we've seen that leads to some problems in and of itself for Lycos' brother and how he's trying to manipulate everything. And this one crazy dude that pretty much has emotions, or he's like so psychopathic that the Gnos can take the emotions, but that still doesn't stop him from being insane or whatnot. Because he's evidently turned into a jester for him, and because he wants to go back to the Mud Whale to slaughter and kill more people, even though they handily kicked his ass. Pretty much I thought he was going to die, and he was thrown into the Sea of Sand. So the Empire, the brother pretty much is able to get the Empire to not kill him for his failure of losing the ship, and also blackmail another dude into helping him with an operation to destroy the Falena. Now, we have learned that there's war going on between this Empire and others, and the Falena is able to get guests from another alliance, and the dude pretty much thought that he was going to take control of it, but he starts getting into the nuts and bolts of what's going on there, and they figure out that the Marked, in order to use Thymia, give away their life force to the Gnos, the Falena, in order to use their magic one. That makes sense. There are ones out there that take the emotion, and there are ones that take the life. Even kinds of trade-off. It's interesting to see where that's going to go. And it's interesting to see how Suho, who takes over as the mayor, after the whole thing and pretty much becomes the one in charge, since the elders went kind of nuts and decided, oh, we'll just kill everybody. He's the one dealing with everything, and he's got a support group getting up and pretty much trying to make sure that they don't get completely screwed over. And it's cool to see him deal with this other representative, and the representative just being like, I own this stuff. And he's like, I want all this food and all that. I was like, dude, no, it's not how this works. As they get their way out, that's kind of where it ends up, where the Mud Whale has left and is on its way to make alliances in the outside world so that way they don't get destroyed. So it sets up an interesting kind of scenario with some interesting characters to see where it's going to be going. I'm really looking forward to see how Chakra progresses as his recording duties keep going on, because he wants to record the truth and keep the memories of the people that he's lost alive, seeing how his Daemonis role will affect the others and what his kind of role is, since he's always been this kind of outsider person and all he ever wanted to do was leave the Mud Whale. But when push came to shove, he stayed to protect the ones that he loved, even though some of them died. So I really liked how they got the cast of characters, and it was just a very interesting world. So I would highly recommend this for fantasy and character development. It's a really interesting take, and it's really beautifully animated, especially with like the sandstorms and what's going on with the Gnosis and children of the Gnosis, because there's two girls that are the offspring of the fallen Gnosis, and how they kind of work in. So I'm really intrigued to see how they kind of build the mythology and what's going to be going on, and I hope to really see more of this, because sometimes with anime you get some and they never get another season. So I hope this one gets another season. So those are my opinions on the anime. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.